Crafting and coming up with really fantastic questions to start off meetings is a skill. There's some art to it and there's also some science to it. And so in this video, if you came for just like, hey, Chad, give me the questions, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really fantastic template questions, which you can fill in the blank of and adapt to the purpose and your context. And while I'm sharing these template videos, I'll also share some of my absolute best practices so that you can actually master the skill, so that you not only leave with templates, but you also leave with the ability to just come up with really fantastic questions to start off your meetings and gatherings in a way that's purposeful. Let's get into it. Question number 1, what is something you know about blank? And the idea with these template questions is that you fill in your purpose into the blank, and all of a sudden the question is really great at allowing people to meet my 3 criteria for what I call connection before content. I originally got that phrase from a chap named Peter Block. And Peter Block is an author hero of mine. He's 84, 85 years old right now. I had lunch with him a couple months ago, and he said something to me that I really liked, which is, if you're in a conversation with somebody and it's not making a difference, why the hell are you talking? And so I think really great meeting starter questions have a way of cutting to the heart of what matters right in the first few minutes of a meeting. And so one really great way to invite everybody's contribution and make everybody feel heard right at the very beginning, regardless of what you're meeting about, is to ask, what do you know about this topic? And so if I fill in my purpose, which is the purpose of this is to teach you in some ways how to ask powerful questions. What is something you know about questions? If you haven't watched my videos before, I co-wrote a book with Will Wise called Ask Powerful Questions. And it went off kind of much to our surprise, to be frank, and became a bestseller and is used in hundreds of organizations all over the world to help people create a culture of really phenomenal question asking and effective communication. And so it turns out when you write a book with that title, a lot of people reach out to you and say, hey, I'm hosting this event. What would be a great question for blank? And so naturally, what I did was go to ChatGPT and I created actually a little bot. And I'll leave a link to this in the description, but I leave a little ChatGPT-based bot called the Question Creator. I've trained it on the entire text of Ask Powerful Questions, and then given it a whole bunch of other kind of best practices for coming up with questions, and instructed it to, as soon as somebody just shares the context of their gathering and the purpose of why they're meeting, it's trained to shoot back 3 options for questions. 1 question that kind of encourages some level of self-reflection. 1 question that is fun and light, and 1 question that's a little bit deeper. And also, it shares really clearly a punchy intent statement for why those questions. And it turns out, it's kind of good. But you know what's better? Human intelligence. In this case, because you know your context better than ChatGPT ever would. And so I'll leave the thing if you want to play with the Question Creator. It's free and accessible to everybody who clicks the link, but stick around in this video because I'm gonna teach you how to do what that bot does in just a handful of minutes. So the second question template is what is one of the best examples of blank? So I recently led a series of sessions with a large energy company. And so in that context, if people are meeting to talk about how to transition to more sustainable energy, you could ask people and start out a meeting with, what is one of the best recent examples of sustainable energy that you've seen from somewhere around the world? All a question like that does is give somebody the ability and the power and the space to share something that might be useful for the entire group to reflect on, discuss, spark creativity, some new ideas, innovation, etc. And so examples are really what this question is asking for, is just give me something concrete and specific related to the purpose of our gathering. That's invaluable. Depending on the context you're working in, this could be $1 million question. If you just give people the space to share cases that are outside your own organization that they've found interesting. It turns out that in this information age where everybody is consuming so much knowledge, we don't actually create enough structured time to say, hey, what have you been learning this week? What have you thought about this week? What have you read this week? This question does that really well. Oh, I love this question, and it comes along with a metaphor that I think is just like brilliant. Really open. What do you think about blank? I led a workshop many years ago with a group of 25 CEOs of companies all grossing more than $500 million. So this is like a busy group of intense people. And so I wanted to start off the session with a bang. And so without their knowledge, I had, me and my team went to Glassdoor and printed off and anonymized all their company reviews of why people stayed and why people left their company. And I cut them out into small little pieces and laid them out on a table. And when this group walked in, I said, hey, your time is really valuable. We need to figure out why are people staying and why are people leaving your organizations. There's all your Glassdoor reviews. Sort these into buckets to try to figure it out. And much to my surprise, one of the insights they came back with was 9 out of 10 reviews had the word listen or a synonym to it. And so it was either my boss listens to me and I feel like my contribution's actually heard and ideas get implemented, or I share all these improvement ideas, nothing ever happens, I'm done with this crap, see ya. And this question can improve your Glassdoor reviews if you just make a habit of asking people what they think about a particular thing. And maybe to be introvert friendly, when you ask that question, you give people enough space to come up with a response that's meaningful to them. And to supercharge this question, ask it, but then also say, I'm gonna give you a minute of productive silence to really think about your own response, possibly even write down a couple ideas, and then as a group, we're gonna share at the start of our meeting. I used to work at a group called World in Conversation, and I was teaching a facilitator training of how you lead really difficult conversations. And a student, an international student from China, shared the most cool metaphor about dialogue and what questions and conversation create. And this is what it was. Imagine you and I in this YouTube video and everybody else is standing in a completely pitch black room. You can't see anybody else. And absolute truth is a statue in the center of the room. So like what is objectively true is standing in the center of the room, but it's pitch black. You cannot see absolute truth. What a question like this does is like taking a glow stick and tossing it across the room, and just for a minute you get a glimpse of what this angle of the statue looks like. And if you toss enough glow sticks, if you ask a team in a team meeting, you ask everybody, what do you think about this? What you get is 10 different glow sticks tossed around this overall concept. Your meeting will be greatly improved by having all of those perspectives out front first, and then diving into your agenda and the content. I also think really powerful questions invite us to consider our state and how we want to be, not just what we want to do. And so here are two questions that access this idea. So in what ways are we doing what we love? So you think about that as a meeting starter question. This would be a great way to kind of reconnect to the why someone applied to that job in the first place, why someone chose to volunteer for that organization, why someone's there in that moment. And then the second one is really coming back to purpose in a deeper sense, is what do we aspire to? And what do we say we aspire to? So what are the values written on our wall in our corporate office? And then what are we actually rewarding and valuing and perpetuating in our organization? So two really powerful questions that bring up some really meaningful discussions and could start a phenomenal team meeting. As promised, you've got all 5. I'll point out one best practice in this question. Notice the one of. What is one of the best examples? So you wanna ask really great questions at the start of a meeting, ditch superlatives. Don't ask about your favorite thing you did this weekend, ask about one of your favorite things you did this weekend. They're easier to respond to, there's less pressure, they're a little bit more non-threatening, and there's also multiple responses or multiple perspectives. And my last tip, frankly, we just recently published a special edition hardback of Ask Powerful Question. And in the very front, there's a little connection before content call out. And it says, hi, Chad here, with a confession for you. I'm really good at buying books, but I'm not so good at reading them. And so I trust that this might be true for you, that, yeah, like, cool, there's a book about Ask Powerful Questions, but I'm not gonna go read that. Let me share one of my favorite tools or ideas from that book, which is really powerful questions tend to begin with one of these 2 words. If you wanna start meeting questions with questions that are open, that don't create any judgment, begin them with how or what, not why. Because if you ask people a why question, what they have to do is rationalize, justify, defend. And you don't want people at the beginning of a meeting to be in a fight, flight, or a need to be right kind of response. I'm Chad. If you want to see me facilitate a group live and be a part of one of my live events, in December I'm hosting the Connectors Summit. If you liked this video, you will love the Connectors Summit, and there's a link below with more details. Have an awesome day.